Before Route 66 became a symbol of the American road trip, another highway system was already teaching Americans what it meant to drive long distances. It ran from the Great Lakes to Florida. In Michigan, it reached all the way to Mackinaw City, then farther north towards Sault Ste. Marie. It passed through towns, farm country, resort communities, and growing industrial cities. Along the way, it helped turn muddy wagon roads into automobile highways. It was called the Dixie Highway, and in the 1910s and 1920s, it represented something new, the idea that an ordinary family could climb into an automobile in Michigan and follow a marked road almost all the way to Miami. The idea came largely from Carl G. Fisher, the energetic Indiana businessman who had already helped launch the Lincoln Highway. Fisher was not a government planner, he was an entrepreneur and promoter. He helped develop the Indianapolis Motor Speedway and later became deeply involved in developing Miami Beach. He understood something that sounds obvious today, but was revolutionary at the time. Cars were only useful if people had roads worth driving on. The Lincoln Highway, announced in 1913, aimed to create a coast-to-coast route from New York to San Francisco. Fisher soon turned his attention south. His new idea was a highway connecting the Midwest with Florida. The Dixie Highway Association was organized in Chattanooga, Tennessee, in April 1915. Within weeks, arguments had already broken out over which cities should be included. That was hardly surprising. A highway meant traffic, traffic meant customers, and customers meant money. Hotels, garages, restaurants, stores, and communities all wanted motorists passing their doors. Instead of selecting one narrow route, organizers eventually created a system of roads with eastern and western divisions. Federal Highway Administration histories note that the association sometimes solved routing fights simply by including competing routes. Drivers could take one road south and another north. That decision gave Michigan a major place in the system. Michigan gets into the road business. Michigan was already becoming one of the most important automobile states in the country. Detroit was producing cars by the thousands, but outside the cities, roads often remained primitive. Michigan had created its State Highway Department in 1905. Early highway advocates such as Horatio Good Roads, Earl, pushed counties and the state to replace mud roads with better surfaces. Michigan soon became a national leader in highway engineering and traffic control. The Dixie Highway arrived at exactly the right moment. By May 1915, planners had agreed to extend the system north to Mackinaw City. Rather than simply connecting Chicago and Miami, the highway now reached deep into Michigan. One branch served western Michigan. Another traveled through southeastern Michigan and toward Detroit before continuing north. Historic maps show routes passing through communities that included Toledo, Detroit, Pontiac, Flint, Saginaw, Bay City, and northern Lower Michigan before reaching Mackinaw City. Later maps extended the system even farther north toward Sault Ste. Marie. By the early 1920s, federal highway histories described the Dixie Highway as running from the Soo to Miami. For a highway conceived as a road to Florida, that was quite an expansion. Waterford shows what the highway meant. One of the surviving photographs from Waterford captures the Dixie Highway at street level. There are telephone poles, storefronts, a garage, a hotel sign, and an early automobile parked near the road. It does not look dramatic, but that scene explains why communities fought to be included. Waterford had long sat along the old Saginaw Trail. By the automobile era, that historic travel corridor was becoming part of something much larger. In 1915, Waterford Township voters approved a $1 million highway construction program that included paving Dixie Highway as far as Silver Lake Road. In 1923, the highway was widened to 4 lanes. That is remarkable when you consider how primitive many American roads still were. The highway did more than make travel easier. It shifted business toward the road. A traveler might need gasoline, or a tire, or a mechanic, or lunch, or a room for the night. That created an entirely new roadside economy. Heading north on the West Michigan Pike. On the western side of the state, another important road became part of the story. The West Michigan Pike had been promoted as a tourist route along Lake Michigan. Today, much of that route is known as US 31. Michigan now recognizes the West Michigan Pike as one of the nation's oldest tourist roads and credits it with helping spur tourism and growth in Lake Michigan communities. Imagine making that trip in the 1910s. There was no interstate, no GPS, no air conditioning, no reliable roadside assistance. A driver had to watch for signs painted on poles, inspect tires regularly, and hope that the next bridge was still passable. The road itself could change from pavement to gravel to dirt in a matter of miles. A historic photograph labeled Dixie Highway, Arcadia, Michigan, makes that point perfectly. The road appears almost impossibly narrow by modern standards. It runs straight across open country, pale and dusty, without center lines, shoulders, or guardrails. That was a national highway, and motorists loved it. A new kind of vacation. The Dixie Highway helped change what a vacation meant. Before widespread automobile ownership, Michigan tourism depended heavily on railroads and steamships. A family traveling to a resort might buy train tickets, follow a timetable, and stay near a depot. The automobile broke that pattern. Now families could leave Detroit or Chicago when they wanted. They could stop for lunch in a small town, pull over near a lake, spend the night at a hotel or tourist cabin, and continue north the next morning. The traveler controlled the schedule. Roadside businesses noticed immediately. The named highway associations themselves actively promoted this economic opportunity. They published maps, travel guides, and newsletters while encouraging towns to improve their roads and advertise to motorists. The highway was infrastructure, but it was also marketing. Mackinaw City becomes the symbol. At Mackinaw City, the Dixie Highway became impossible to miss. The eastern and western routes met near Central Avenue. There, residents built a large stone monument marking the meeting of the Dixie Highway and the East and West Michigan Pikes. A newspaper account from July 1916 described the monument as roughly 18 feet high and about 7 feet wide at its base. Local tradition holds that residents and farmers contributed stones to its construction. The monument stood about 20 feet tall and was dedicated in 1916. It remained in place until 1954. Historic postcards show the monument towering above the street. For motorists, it served as a geographic exclamation point. You had reached the top of Michigan's Lower Peninsula, and yet the road kept going. From here, travelers could turn around and head south through Michigan, Ohio, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Georgia before eventually reaching Florida. The entire idea must have seemed extraordinary. Roads before numbers. The Dixie Highway belonged to what historians call the Named Trail era. Before US 31, US 23, or US 27 became familiar numbers. Drivers followed colorful names. The Lincoln Highway, the Yellowstone Trail, the National Old Trails Road, the Dixie Highway. By the mid-1920s, more than 250 named automobile routes crisscrossed the United States. That became a problem. A single road could carry several trail names. Telephone poles might be painted with multiple colored bands. Route promoters sometimes competed with one another over the same stretch of pavement. The federal government and state highway agencies wanted something simpler. In 1926, the U.S. numbered highway system arrived. Names began giving way to numbers. Much of the western Dixie Highway became US 31. Other Michigan sections were absorbed into numbered state and federal highways. The famous name slowly faded. Route 66 was also officially designated in 1926. By then, Michigan motorists had already been following the Dixie Highway for more than a decade. The road is still there. The Dixie Highway never completely disappeared. The name survives in southeastern Michigan. US 31 still follows much of the old West Michigan tourist corridor. Old alignments remain in towns and rural areas, sometimes carrying names that motorists pass without knowing why they are there. The monument in Mackinaw City is gone, but its story remains part of the community's historical record, and the photographs may be the best evidence of all. A hotel sign in Waterford, a dusty road near Arcadia, a stone monument in Mackinaw City, maps showing a red line running from Michigan toward Florida. They capture the moment when Americans stopped thinking of roads as simply a way to reach the next town. The road could now take you across states, across regions, across half a continent. Michigan helped build the automobiles that changed America. The Dixie Highway helped give those automobiles somewhere to go. And long before generations of travelers dreamed about Route 66, motorists in Michigan were already pointing their cars south, following the Dixie Highway toward Miami. Thanks for listening. Please follow us for more Michigan moments from the Great Lakes State.